Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday morning, and this is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way with Hamish, Tony, and we've got Kevin back on as well. By far the greatest reunion today that's been announced, guys. Definitely tops anything else that's been announced.
Was I not on last week?
It's a reunion of sorts, Kevin. It's good to have you back on. How are you getting on?
Aye, yeah, buzzing after that great start to the season, but I mean, honestly, see this week, every bleeding season, it's like waiting for your exam results, isn't it? I mean,
well, disappointment or joy in an envelope?
Well,
is that what it's saying?
It's just we're kind of. I mean, I've cancelled plans for Friday night. I'm just going to sit in with a takeaway and watch the Sky Sports ticker go down. I'll be on the phone to various people. What have you heard?
You'll be tuning in to the Celtic Way. We'll probably do a special 9 till 11. Me thinks.
Good. Great idea.
Let you know more about that.
I mean, honestly, see, as you get older, you think that the kind of passion will just diminish a bit, and you'll just do what normal people do. And then this comes around every year, and you're going, there's more important things, and people are telling you, you need to get your life in perspective. And I'm thinking, that ship sailed a while ago. If it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to happen. And I'm still here hanging on. End of the week, who are we going to get? Zero dear.
We've been linked with some players, at least. That's an improvement.
Oh, we're great. We're the champion. We're the champions have been linked with players.
We are. And I made that point yesterday because Ryan was very, very excited with the players I've been linked with yesterday. And I made the point, I said, let's just hold on to our excitement until we actually announce players. No one's been announced yet, Tony. We're still in the same place with Alex Vaya. Vaya, is that what we're going with? The double L is a silent Y in Spain.
Yeah, somebody said Valye, I think was it.
It's going to be one of these.
So it's one of those
10 different ways to...
I hope it's Valley, so that we can have the heading, how green was my valley.
Yeah, that's definitely a Celtic Day reference. That was a film, Hamish, back in the day, I believe. Yes.
Thank you, Tony.
No problem at all. I'll keep you right. I threw in a Mr. Ben reference yesterday, and I was getting Eurograms from people who are as old as me saying, "Oh, brilliant!" It's just like Hamish and Ryan were just like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is.
So what was the chat on Valle? Oh, there's Ryan telling us how to say it. What a guy. Oh, wrong one. Oh, that is. We'll put that on screen as well, because Graham's always good. Tony, I want to personally thank you and Ryan for taking the time out your busy schedule on Sunday to speak to you. All the best going forward, as this pod deserves every success. How was your chat with Graham?
Great lad. Came up and introduced himself, spoke away, terrific. He was a wee bit down. His team were well and truly beaten, but he just said they were beaten by a quality side. So, and he reckons that they needed a goal scorer because they were pretty toothless and punchless up front, which you couldn't.
Yeah,
I couldn't disagree with, So, but I guess St Mirren's season not going to hinge on the Celtic games, is it? But yeah, no, terrific. It was good to meet him, and spent a few minutes chatting away to him because he's been very, very good for us, and he's always bigging up the podcast. So thank you for that, Graham. Pleasure to meet you as well, sir.
Yeah, great stuff. Right, there is loads of transfer stuff to chat about. First of all, just we brushed over the weekend completely yesterday. So, guys, if there's anything burning, any burning issues from the weekend, anything you want to get off your chest, good, probably good, maybe bad, from Sunday's performance, anything in particular?
I was probably like a lot of other people. I was looking at the performance of Bernardo.
He was good,
and I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
And he just kept things ticking along. nice, intricate wee passes here and there, linking up well with McGregor. McGregor, I've got to say, I mean, I know he's been brilliant almost every season since he broke in, but I mean, he looks as if he's been given a new lease of life, doesn't he? With stepping back from the Scotland squad, and also you can see that little tweak that that Brendan Rodgers has made, which you guys mentioned this a couple of times last season. But he's playing a little bit more forward than he was. I think I'm right in saying this under Ange. He's just getting into those positions where he can use that sweet left foot, because his when he gets a hold of a football, nobody strikes it. Aesthetically, nobody strikes it better in Scotland. And see when he does, and it just zips in, with very little backlift. It's a joy, and he's getting in and around those areas. Maybe 5-10 yards further forward than he was playing under Ange.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought for a while that McGregor should shoot more, because he's a very good technician, and it's something that goes under the radar quite a lot because he's become this huge figure for us in this captain. But he's a really good footballer with his passing and his shooting. For whatever reason, Tony, the last couple of away matches, last couple of league matches, he's thought, I'm going to hit it, because maybe a lot of the time that one early in the game on Sunday he does pass that, but maybe he had the goal a couple of weeks prior in his mind and thought, yeah, I'm going to hit it, and we'd like that again on Sunday if he fancies it.
I asked him if it was the yellow jersey that made him do it.
Oh, yeah.
So just change of kit. He kind of laughed.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I was asking him about his form and the fact that he had scored 2 howitzers, and you'd be hard pushed. I mean, he's got 2 goal of the season contenders for leaving out of August. They're as sweet strikers you'll ever see. The one at Hibs in particular, the one at Easter Road, is terrific. But looking at Sundays, that leaves his boot. There's only one place that's going. And, sweet as a nut, as you say, Kevin, and he has got that in his locker. And I think he's clearly been encouraged to do that more, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We lost a 37-goal contribution last season from Matt O'Reilly, just there, from last season. So Matt O'Reilly's gone, so that was 19 goals, 18 assists. The manager's clearly said to him, there's no reason stopping you from doing that. Whenever you get near that target, you're as accurate as anybody. And we have seen it many times in Callum's career with Celtic. When he connects with a ball, it's as sweet as you'll see. And when he gets it on target, it usually goes in. I remember the last-minute goal at Pittodrie, remember, when he dug Celtic?
Oh, that was, yeah. I was just...
and sparked utter bedlam in the stands and in homes. Yeah, and, and that's the value of having him pushed further forward. And I know he's been excellent in the number 6, but to me, he's an attacking midfielder, and he is a potent weapon when he goes forward. And from 20, 25, 30 yards range, he can hit a ball. And woe betide you if you give him that space, because he will exploit it, because as Hamish said there, he is a technician, and he's very gifted. And still some people don't or underrate Callum McGregor for that. They don't give him the due respect that he's that he's worth, and teams forget that.
I think Taylor's been excellent as well. He was. I was very impressed. Well, I've been very impressed with him in every game. He's. I don't want to say he stepped up, because that suggests that he was underperforming, which he never has. Greg Taylor is just, but he's just. I think he's one of those players who every season he seems to add something. That he's playing with more confidence. His runs, his energy is just great, and he's a big reason why we can play with a bit more expansiveness in the midfield, just because he's always up and down. And I mean, again, I don't know if it's my imagination, but I think his distribution is getting sharper, because that was one criticism that I'd had of him, that quite often, especially under pressure or when the ball needed to be moved quickly, his distribution could be a bit suspect. But I think he's sharpened that up.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Alex Valle comes in, and I think Valle's not going to start this Sunday. Obviously, it's going to be Greg Taylor, but after that, how does Brendan Rodgers view this? I mean, I know the previous manager, Ange Postecoglou, changed the fullbacks quite often. You would get Bernabe starting a fair bit, or Ralston would start a lot of games, and I wonder if that's what we'll see going forward. But I'd love to know with Brendan Rodgers who he kind of thinks is his number one left back moving forward. A few people pointing out the referee has been announced for the derby on Sunday. John Beaton, the referee once again. He seems to get all the derbies at the moment. Andrew Dallas is on VAR. So yeah, that's Sunday. I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty more before then. Yeah, you were mate. I think there's a Scotland squad announced today, guys, as well. Callum McGregor won't be in it, so he'll obviously get his break after the derby at the weekend. I noticed Matt O'Reilly had been called up for Denmark, which just kind of I don't know why that frustrates me, because obviously the Denmark manager's come up with squad before he knew O'Reilly was moving on, but the minute O'Reilly gets his move and he's called up for Denmark, it just Kasper Schmeichel obviously called up for Denmark as well. Right, let's talk transfers. Where are we? Lagerbielke's moved on, guys. He's gone out on loan to 20 in Eredivisie. So the chat, Tony, is that Lagerbielke moving on will allow us now to go out and sign a centre-back. Not quite sure why that had to be the case, but it is. And Auston Trusty is the guy apparently we're after. We've made I think a £5 million bid, I read, earlier today. So he seems like the guy.
Yeah. Championship player slapped in a £5 million bid. You know what happens now, don't you? Gets rejected, and we do the dance until we, in a pinball style, go ding, 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 and hit the figure. So the same with Adarida. It's what Celtic do, isn't it? And the manager says he understands the markets, and he should know that championship players don't move for £5 million, or very seldom move for £5 million. So we shall see, but I think clearly that's the man. There seems to be some planning with that one as well, though, with Trusty, because he's an American international, maybe playing alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers. You can see the kind of, you're connecting dots there and seeing that it would be a good idea, hopefully. His compatriot there, helping him settle in, all that kind of stuff. So if that's the man they want, then go and do the deal. They have to go and do the deal, because time is of the essence, bottom line. Spoke about it yesterday. So one of the commenters, I think, said, all of Monday and nothing. It can't be all of Tuesday and nothing, because then you are up against it. And then you were reading last night about Arne Enkels, the midfielder, the Augsburg midfielder, Belgian. They were saying initially Augsburg were wanting between 8 and 10 million, and then all of a sudden that figure had jumped up from 12 to 15 because they don't need to sell, but Celtic need to buy. So, and I think that was the kind of situation that Rodgers was alluding to.
I think so.
On Sunday after St Mirren. We shouldn't be in this situation. We shouldn't be in this predicament, but we are.
Said we don't need to manufacture our own stress. And
I think that was the kind of stress that he was talking about. This low balling for players in the last 4 days of the window, and then having to go high ball eventually. So we shall see what happens. But as Kevin said, we are gold medal Olympic linkers with players, aren't we? Gold medalists at that. Yeah, at being linked with players. Need to try and get a few over the line, as they say.
The general consensus, Kevin, seems to be that people aren't a fan of Trusty, but I guess Cameron Carter-Vickers didn't have a great reputation before we signed him either.
Yeah, it's you just again the thing that frustrates me, and I wish our fans would make their voices much better heard about this, is there's just not a scintilla of information, explanation of the process. I just cannot think of any other business where you want the fans to pay, let's face it, a whack of money for the privilege of watching this club, investing in them, and then you say, but you're just going to take what you get. We're not even going to explain anything. Nothing. There's no explanation. I mean, I saw that video footage on social media of Peter Lawwell getting stopped, getting a little bit of abuse. No, it wasn't abuse. It wasn't abuse. Just some tough questioning, shall we say, unparliamentary language by that Celtic fan at the weekend. And there was all the usual comments. This is a disgrace. He shouldn't be treated like this. He should be able to kind of come and go to his job. And I get that. I get that. But see, in return, I think Celtic are morally bound. In a situation like this, where they know the entire fan base, and the Celtic fans these days are much more. They're much more articulate. They're much more ahead of what's happening. They're much more sophisticated in their support and their knowledge of football and the processes and other players and other clubs in the markets than in my 30 odd years ago. I'm not saying that they're more intelligent. It's just that they're much more across of how these things happen. And the fans are just continually held in contempt by the board. Yeah, we know you've been through this. We know we've got a lot of money. We know there's a Celtic Rangers game happening on Sunday. We know that the squad, unbelievably, at this moment in time, is weaker than it was this time last year. But we're still telling you nothing. And see, when you open your mouth and let vent your frustration, you shouldn't be doing that. And you say, well, give us something in return. Just give us and Brendan Rodgers, and I suppose Brendan Rodgers could say, you know what? See, in the last 2 weeks, we've put in bids for these 3 players, 2 of whom we have actually been tracking for several months. But it can get a bit complex because you get multiple agents. You don't just have one agent. You have to make sure you don't alert other clubs, to the fact that you show an interest. But there's nothing, because that Brendan Rodgers can't go into too much detail, because he then gets a call from Lawwell or Nicholson saying, you're telling too many tales out of school here. I mean, am I wrong, or am I being naive here? Is that just the way that clubs always all over the world treat their fans with that contempt? Am I naive in expecting just a little bit more information or an explanation? Because I might be.
Yeah, I think for me personally, at the very least, I want ambition from the club, and I want the club to be matching the ambition of the support who plough more money than ever before into the club, and the support they're going to be asked once again in probably a week's time or 2 weeks' time to part with the best part of £200 each for a 4-match Champions League package, when we don't necessarily know or believe that the squad's going to be in a stronger place than it was at the start of the window. That's the thing I really want from the club. I want to see that ambition. To be honest, I'm kind of maybe over the last few days starting to see it a little bit with some of the players we've been linked with. But as we said earlier, it's finalised deals that I'm interested in. I'm not just interested in links, Tony.
Yeah, we've said that all along. The manager's as ambitious as MD. And I think he spoke on Sunday and he kind of laid it bare a wee bit and gave you enough. He even had that joke, didn't he? When the guy's phone went off, he was like, "Is that Michael? Tell him to shut up," as in he was referring to himself. Because he probably did feel that he'd imparted a fair bit of information in that, when he was talking on Sunday. And he did, and he did that because I think he's always cognizant of the fact that Brendan's a fan as well. And he is representing Celtic at the highest level, i.e. the manager, and he carries the hopes and dreams of us three and thousands and millions of people around the world who support this football club. So he's not stupid that way, but he's always, he's always aware of the responsibility and the duty that he has. And he does try and, I think, the manager tries to spell it out, Kevin, and tells you kind of what's happening.
He does.
So signposts it a lot of the time. And I've said before, sometimes he's cryptic, other times he's bang, this is how it is. So I think he's very aware of that exalted position that he holds and gives you some information. And I think Sunday was one of those days, the week before, when he spoke about the ticket stuff and the banning of supporters. He gave you his thoughts on it, that it wasn't this wasn't a Celtic thing. Celtic were being unnecessarily dragged into it. This is a Rangers thing. So I think he's a very aware of what the fans want. He's got his ear to the ground that way in terms of what's irking the supporters, and they will always be irked by those at the top and their supposed inertia during transfer windows. But it's been like this for years and years, and that's how the frustration's grown. And I think the manager, over the past couple of times he's spoken to the media, I think he did very well to quell fans' frustrations as much as he can and tell them as much as they can. He's always asked a number. How many players? Do you have a number in mind? And he says yes. And and then because the very thing he says is, if I say 5 and we get 3 in, it's a stick you're going to use to beat him with. Say, you said you would get 5 players in, so have you failed in the window? That kind of stuff. So he's very articulate and he's very bright. He knows what he's doing. So, but like Hamish, I think we're all excited with the links that we've had over the past couple of days. But just get deals done. The clock's ticking. We need players in because Matt O'Reilly's left, and it's significantly weakened us, hasn't it?
Do you think, Hamish, that that because we play this brinkmanship, that we end up paying slightly over the odds with players because other clubs exploit our desperate need and the pressure by our fans? I've often wondered this. On one hand, the club will go to the max because they'll say we're not just paying out money in a panic. We don't want to just pay out money in a panic and pay over the odds for players we don't think are worth it. But on the other hand, I just wonder if sometimes we're at risk of doing that because other clubs just sense our desperation. I think because I just if I was a selling club, I'd be like, what? Stick another knot in that. Stick a couple of $100,000 in that. Sorry, another 2 or 3 million in that. This mob are desperate. Have you seen the papers? Have you seen into the social media? Their fans are absolutely going mental. Let's just stick another 2 or 3 million in that.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers was asked about that. Is it a case of just paying a little bit more? And he was also asked, does the fact that, I think it's something Callum McGregor even maybe mentioned on Friday, the fact that we have so much money and that's such a public thing. Other clubs will be aware of that. They don't need to look far to realise that Celtic have a lot of money at the moment. That maybe adds to it as well. My big frustration is this window might turn out all right. It might if we end up signing these 4 players. It's a big if. But we might end up with a decent enough squad here if we sign some of the players we've been linked with. But that doesn't take away from me the fact that this window has been extremely frustrating as a fan because everything is taking so long, and maybe it is easy as fans and simplistic to look at it and look at the Adamida situation, but you do view it, and we ended up paying 8.5 to 9.5 million for Ida anyway. So why wasn't that done earlier in the window? I know
Yeah.
there might have been complications about the Norwich manager wanting to take a look at him and all of that kind of stuff, but like, you just get the impression that Celtic weren't keen enough to get these players in early, and I guess as a result we have Adam Ida probably looking a little bit rusty at the weekend. Paulo Bernardo could have been in weeks in advance. We kind of got away with the Kasper Schmeichel stuff a bit. I feel like that could maybe have been done a little bit earlier, even though he was at the Euros. And certainly the left back and centre back stuff. As I say, we might end up with decent players in those positions, but we should not be going into the final 3 days of the window still not having officially signed a left back or a centre back and needing 2 centre mids as well. And we're not imagining it as fans. That's the thing. We're not imagining it because Brendan Rodgers literally said on Sunday, Tony, that it's not been good enough.
Yeah, of course he did. And to let you know that he's not happy, and the ... on that was that recruitment. Those recruitment were people who are in the recruitment, and he said they've been working tirelessly, but that's getting ripped up because it's not going to happen again in another window on Brendan Rodgers' watch. That's the first thing that's going to get addressed as soon as this window shuts. Who's doing the recruitment and getting, need to conduct it? You and I, Kevin and Ryan, sat in this podcast over the summer and said Celtic would pay £8 million or thereabouts for Adam Ida. We said that. We said that after the cup final. That's what it would be. So how could they go in as low as 4.5 originally, and then it take forever to get to 8.5? I mean, I ain't no business negotiator, but you could see from a long way off. Again, it's a championship player. So if we're going to relate this to Trusty, getting in at 5 million, that ain't happening, is it?
Yeah.
And as you rightfully said there, Kevin, clubs are sensing Celtic's desperation and need to get players in the door. So it's human nature to say you want them, you're going to pay for them.
Well, everybody knows around the globe that the English Championship is the second most lucrative league in the world.
Yeah.
Let's face it. It just is. The decider for that title at the end of the season gets the richest pot in club football. It's the single most valuable game. It's a very, very it's an intense market. I'll take you back to in 1987-88, before our centenary season, Celtic clearly needed to spend money because Rangers had won the title the year before. It was the beginning of the Soonest Revolution, and this was our centenary year. So within 2 weeks, we bought Mick McCarthy, Chris Morris, Andy Walker, and Billy Stark. And because we bought those players, we won the title, and we won it comfortably. However, 3 games into the season, we're playing that title-defending Rangers team, with Graham Souness and all the big English players at Parkhead. And Billy McNeill, who was the manager, obviously thinking, we've got Rangers, a very, very good Rangers team. 3 games in, we need those players to have had a pre-season training, because if he'd only been able to sign them just a few days before the game, they wouldn't have been fit enough to play. He's not going to throw them in against Rangers. And I think there's a degree of complacency here. We've got Rangers on Saturday, that Rangers haven't had their troubles to seek. They look a bit ropey. Celtic have had a great start to the season. We beat them in a cup final last season. We don't really need to worry as much about Rangers as we used to. Oh, is that right? I've seen us and them over the years trip up because of just such complacency. One takes the other. One's too complacent about the other just because of results or performances or off-park problems. They take their eye off the ball, and there's a defeat. Now, I think Celtic, with their existing squad, should beat Rangers, but this is one of 4 defining games in the season. So this is 25% of our most important run of fixtures, at the very least our 4th most important game of the season. And we're going into it with a squad that is weaker than it was 12 months ago. That's unforgivable.
At this moment in time, Kevin, but it could change by Friday.
It could be a bit, but if we get those players in by Friday, they're not going to be playing against Rangers.
Yeah, that's true.
This is what I'm saying.
But again, that's what Rodgers means.
Yeah, that's what he's alluding to. Yeah, that's the whole point.
It's just it's unbelievable, and also, like, Valle, has he made a stat? Has he actually played for Barcelona's senior team?
Not competitively, no.
So we're playing. I don't care what club he's playing for. So we're basically seriously considering a young player who hasn't made a single senior appearance for his parent club, and we're going into the Champions League, and we may actually be up against this parent club. I mean, obviously, he wouldn't be able to play, but
he can. Apparently, Ryan was saying
he
could play. Yeah,
he can.
That then adds to the ridiculousness of it. Why are Celtic a Champions League team going to this? Having known that position needs strengthening or at least competition for it, buying another club's completely untested footballer. It's amateurish. It's not. You're talking about ambition, Hamish and Tony. That to me doesn't show ambition. That's an embarrassment, and also I think it's an insult to Greg Taylor. If I was Greg Taylor, I'd be insulted by that. Saying so, I know that I need a bit more competition for this, and you're bringing in a kid who hasn't actually played, a competitive first team game. Is that what you think of this position?
I'm not even sure. And I need to find out more about Valle when we see him, but I'm not even sure he will be coming in as first choice.
Well, it is speculation. Correct.
Yeah. I think Greg Taylor will be our centre back. Hope not. I think Greg Taylor will be our left back. Our left back in the Champions League. There you go. I think he'll be our starting left back in the Champions League. And I think the jury's out on whether Liam Scales will be our starting centre back. Listen, Greg Taylor and Liam Scales, like it sounds like I'm being really critical because I love these guys and I think they've both been really good. They're both winners. But I think questions about recruitment have to be asked there generally. And I mean, going off a few comments here, the Trusty stuff's interesting. A few people saying they've watched him play and don't rate Auston Trusty. We'll have to wait and see. Odson Edward was mentioned as well, Tony, yesterday. Dennis asking our thoughts on that. That's not going to happen though, is it? Because the only way I could see that happening is if Kyogo was to leave, because Rodgers has already said he doesn't want 3 number one strikers and that can't work.
Let's not kid ourselves here. The only way Odson Edward would come back is if Kyogo was fully off, straight off the bat. And I think, ironically, you look at Kyogo since Rodgers came in, and he's had a good start to the season, but he hasn't scored. But lots of people say he went off the boil, and there's other people saying that in Rodgers' system, probably Edward would be a bit more suited to it. But he's not here, and we don't think Kyogo's leaving. There was that Man City speculation and gossip the manager dismissed it as. So I think Odson Edwards a non-starter. He's on a hefty wage at Crystal Palace as well, to all intents and purposes. But and lots of people still have this feeling about Odson Edward that as a player he downed tools before he left, but he was still the top goal scorer when he left Celtic. Yeah, I struggle with that as well, and I don't.
It's quite a common view, though, Tony.
Yeah, it's a very common view. Yeah, but no footballer downs tools. They just don't do it. I just can't. I just can't see that. But as you say, it's a very common view, and I struggle to get my head around that. And that's. That attitude towards Odson Edward from Celtic supporters is very prevalent,
Great player for us.
He's a fantastic
It's
footballer.
great. And I know why people think that. It's because of that miss at Ibrox in the last game before he departed.
Before he left. Yeah.
But that wasn't him down in tools. That was just a very unfortunate bobble of the ball. Yeah, I know he should have put it in the back of the net, but you know, Auston Edwards scored brilliant goals for us against Rangers. No,
I more the team than him in the COVID season. It was the team that were awful in the COVID season. And Edward was poor generally in the COVID season as well. But I don't understand it. I don't want him back. I want to say that. I don't want him back. I think he has his time and we move on. But I just don't get the people seem like genuinely really angry about Auston Edward, and I struggle with it. I thought he was a great player for us.
He's the club's record signing.
Yeah.
In terms of a transfer fee, and remains that. And he remains one of the best players that we've been privileged to watch. The club, one of the best goal scorers, certainly. Guy had a lot of technical ability and scored some fantastic goals. And the one that springs to mind is the goal at Ibrox, which led to a lot of what's still going on. The fallout from that is still happening today.
Yeah.
But that goal, in particular for me, it was the pass that made that from Dembele. Just absolutely brilliant. But the minute he opens up his body, you know where that's going. And few players could have dispatched that with 10 men at Ibrox, knowing it was going to be probably your only chance to win that football match, and Auston Edward did that. So I think it's highly unlikely that he'll come back, but it's certainly something that's been mooted. And again, another link.
Yeah. Someone was Martin was wondering why we're talking about Edward. There was a link yesterday, Martin, to Auston Edward. That's why we're talking about him. But I agree with you, Martin. It's not one that I think is going to happen at all. But we're keeping an eye on Arnie Engels. Matthias Boguts isn't going away. Seems like Auston Trusty is the centre back we're after, and obviously Alex Valle will be the left back. Maybe announced today, guys. Possibly. That would be 4 players: 2 midfielders, centre back, left back. Would we be happy with that at the end of the window? Given how it's gone, would that be a result, Kevin?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I think the Celtic fans were expecting maybe one, just the one statement signing, you know, one who is instantly recognised. And I know these people cost money. We've got money, and I just would have thought that, you know, are we now just a club who will never ever be in a position to sign an already kind of up and ready big name player or recognisable player. But look, if we got all them, it means that all the positions that we've been talking about for the last 12 months have been looked at and they're now covered. Whether they're strengthened remains to be seen.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on it then, guys. I'm sure it'll be a busy day, and we've got the Champions League draw on Thursday as well, so we can maybe speak a bit about that tomorrow. We've got the derby at the weekend, and I'm sure there'll be loads of transfer stuff tomorrow as well. So we'll head off for now. Thanks, guys, once again for coming on and sharing your thoughts on Celtic. Thanks to you all, the nearly 1,500 of you watching live, the many more thousands who watch after the event. Appreciate you watching, commenting.
Hamish, can I just say, if you look along the start line, guys, you can support our work more by becoming a YouTube member and joining the channel for just $2.99 per month. And that way you can receive early video access, you get priority comments and exclusive membership chat function. For $2.99 a month, guys, it's our YouTube members channel. So if you fancy being a part of that, we would be very grateful, and you can help support the work that we do more. So thank you for that. And thanks to people who have taken that offer up. Good to see you.
Yeah, great stuff. Just quickly, Will was just asking about Lewis Palma. Any update on Palma? Is he going out on loan? The chat I read last night from, I can't remember exactly what outlet it was, saying that we want to sign a winger. Apparently that's why Isaacson had been mentioned. I know Bogut's can play in the wing, so Rodgers wants to sign a winger. The chat is if we get a winger in, Lewis Palmer could be allowed to leave, which was a wee bit of a surprise for me in a way. I'm not his biggest fan, to be honest, but I think it would still be interesting. So that's another one to keep your eye on. Right, everyone, going to head off. Thanks for watching, commenting, etc. Chat to you tomorrow.